Well, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us, we have something from the Apex Pass Around group, hashtag Apex Pass Around group, and for that I am very grateful. This is the QSP Gannet, and this is probably, my top one or two favorite QSPs that I've ever had so far. It is a front flipper that is done exceptionally well. But before we get to that, I really want to take a minute and look at this. This is green micarta with raindrop carbon fiber on both sides because it's a liner lock. It's got a stamped steel clip. Look, I know in this world of fancy knives, stamped steel clips are a little out there, but you know, it keeps the price of the knife down a little bit, and of course it works really well. It's got a G10 backspacer that is black, which I do like. I'm not a huge green fan in my knives. I've talked about this before. There's a couple of types of knife people in the world. One is someone who needs a knife that works, of which this absolutely is. And then two, there's the sort of collector-y knife buyer, and that's me. And that means that knives also have to have a certain aesthetic for me to really want one. Now, they do make this in red. Were I buying this knife, I would not buy the green. But I got to tell you, the green with the black carbon fiber looks damn good, and it's beautiful. Now, as I said, black G10 backspacer. You know, look, this is a great knife. I love their pivot. It's really nicely done. The action on this knife is very good. I know some people don't like front flippers. I do. As with all things, it took a little practice. I had to get used to it, but once I did, I really enjoy them, and that primarily because it means there's no thumb studs in the cutting path, right? And there's no flipper to get in the way. You know, when you're holding onto the knife, it's a great mid-ground. Now, I love very much thumb studs. I do. And of course, I love flippers. But front flippers have a very definitive place for me, and part of it is because how clean it allows the blade to stay, and there's no flipper. I really enjoy that. The Gannet is singularly one of the more comfortable knives that I have had in my hand in a very long time. The design of this handle is really good. Did I just move the mat? I do that sometimes. Let's take a look. I guess we're okay. Is very, very good. I love this blade. It's seen some use, so it's a little dirty. Right? It is 154 cm blade steel, which is an excellent blade. It holds an edge very, very well. Polishes up very nicely. This one is reasonably thin blade stock, so it comes down to a very nice edge because it is a full flat grind once you get past the spot right here. Right, it's got a little bit of flat, but after that it's full flat, so it has a nice drop down to a really nice edge, and their 154 cm is holding that edge exceptionally well. They did a good job. This is QSP doing something very, very right. Let's take a look at what you get. You get 3 1/8 inches of cutting on just about 3.5 inches of 154 cm. The grip area, we're going to do it from right there, which is just where that choil starts. It is 3 3/4, just shy of 3 3/4 inside this line, right? So my fingers, because of how big my hands are, come forward a little bit right here and then lock in really well. You know, if I hold this knife the way I tend to hold knives, which is like this, my finger actually comes backwards a little bit, works through this choil, and this thing is just locked in. It's really very comfortable. The liner lock is locked up at a little over 50%. This knife has been through a ton of channels, which means, you know, it's gotten more use than most knives probably will. Action is very good. I love this thing. I do. Closed length, we take into account the little flipper nub there, is 4.5. And the overall length of this knife is 7 3/4. So it's a good sized knife. But look at this closed profile. I mean, come on. What are we? We're 1.25 inches at the absolute thickest point. Nice deep carry clip on that stamped steel, which means when this thing is down in your pocket, it's first off, it disappears, and then there's just nothing on here to bang into stuff. Now, if you've got really deep pockets and you have something below the knife in your pocket, this is jimped. So I suppose there's some potential for it to bang into stuff this way, going down the pocket that way. But that's not really what happens. We all know this. If you put stuff in the pocket next to your knife, it tends to stay to the side. And of course, there's nothing along here that's going to do any damage, which is a really nice feature. Let's do some size comparisons. Here it is against our old and dear friend, the Bug Out. This knife is considerably longer than the Bug Out. You get a little more cutting and a lot more handle, which is fine. If we line the pivots up, you can see. And let's do our, for our full-size knife, we're going to do the Presidio 2, the full-size Presidio 2. Right, the Gannet comes in wonderfully in the middle of these two knives. And I like the steel. I'm a really big fan of 154 CM. Now, of course, CPM 154 is a little bit better, but 154 CM was, for people of my generation, and I'm old, a super steel in its time, for good reason. It is very stainless. It holds an edge very well if it's heat treated correctly, and I have no reason to believe that QSP has not done just that, because this thing, well, holds an edge very, very well. Yep, it sure does. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Should I keep doing this? Do you guys care how much these things weigh? I mean, we've talked about this in other videos. I know some people do. Yeah, we'll do it. 3.5 ounces for, what did we say it was? It's 3.5 ounces for 3.5 inches overall blade on 3 inches of cutting. That is a good weight. That is right there at that ounce per inch that people seem to really enjoy for EDC. Let's go ahead and get the specs on the blade. As I said, it's a reasonably thin slice of CPM 154. I'm going to come in where are we? We're just at 3 millimeters. Yeah, that's really good. The handle itself is 13, so we're going to be just at, or a little bit over, a ½ inch thick, as you can see. And as I said, the close profile is just about 1.25 inches thanks to this swell on the blade right here. But let's talk about the blade for a second. I love that look. This is a just super useful blade shape. Of course, traditional drop point. It's got a little bit of a rise right here for your thumb to land on, and that is exactly where my big old hands, my thumb lands perfectly right there. Because it's the drop point, you can come forward if you need to for draw cuts. It's got enough of a tip on it without being super ridiculously skinny. I almost cut myself. Wow, this is a very sharp knife up here at the tip. In case you need to do push cuts, push cuts. It's got plenty of tip on it just for that. It's got lovely belly up here at the front, so you can work this way, on the board at the front of the knife. Got a long flat spot where you can do good long push cuts or draw cuts through material. The QSP Gannet, an excellent pocket knife from the folks at QSP. And that is where we're going to land this. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the QSP Gannet. Thank you again to the Apex Pass Around group for putting this in my hands. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions about this knife or any of my knives, feel free to ask down in the comments below. And of course, as always, please subscribe. I would love to have you here on a regular basis. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.